Imagine standing in the embalming chamber of ancient Egypt. You're a royal embalmer, trained in sacred traditions passed down for centuries. But today, you're given an assignment that shakes you to your core. Before you lies the body of the pharaoh's queen, and the order you've received is unlike anything you've ever heard before. You must prepare her body in a way that violates every holy rule you've sworn to uphold. And the reason behind it makes your blood run cold. This isn't a story from some horror novel. This was life in ancient Egypt, a world where sexuality wasn't just private, it was cosmic, where rituals blurred the line between intimacy and religion, and where practices existed that were so extreme, modern minds struggle to even comprehend them. When we think of Egypt, we imagine the gold of Tutankhamun, the towering pyramids, and the eternal gaze of the Sphinx. But there's a side of Egyptian civilization that schoolbooks never touch. A side so disturbing that early archaeologists, bound by Victorian morals, hid the evidence, locked it away, or outright destroyed it. For behind the glittering temples and sacred texts was a culture where sexuality was not only worship, but weapon, where children of the elite were forced into roles that scarred them for life, where slaves were treated as objects of divine service, and where festivals descended into days of violence and mass sexual chaos. Egyptian belief linked sexual energy directly to the fate of the cosmos. Every intimate act was thought to affect the Nile's fertility, the harvest, even the survival of the kingdom itself. For pharaohs, proving their divine potency wasn't a choice, it was a duty. This fueled an escalating cycle of displays and rituals that grew more extreme with each generation. Evidence of this hidden world lies in fragments, carvings tucked away in temples, papyri too explicit to display in museums, and mummies that hold shocking secrets. When Howard Carter's team examined Tutankhamun's body in 1925, they noticed something alarming. His genitals were missing. They hadn't decayed. They'd been deliberately cut away with surgical precision. Tut wasn't alone. Further examinations of royal mummies revealed a pattern. Some had been castrated after death. Others showed signs of enhancements involving foreign materials inserted into their bodies. One unnamed prince's remains suggested an even darker fate. His genitals had been removed while he was still alive, as part of a so-called sacred ritual. Ancient texts suddenly became clearer. References to perfecting the body for the afterlife, to preparing servants for eternity. They hinted at a culture where sexual modification was seen as necessary for spiritual purpose. And yet this disturbing reality was hidden for generations. Victorian scholars, horrified by what they found, deliberately suppressed the truth. Explicit artwork was plastered over. Papyrus scrolls were edited. Some artifacts were even destroyed to protect public morality. Museums quietly locked thousands of objects away in storage, never allowing them to reach display cases. But the sexual rituals of ancient Egypt weren't limited to the dead. Children of noble families were dedicated to temple service, where they endured brutal training from a shockingly young age. They were taught positions, techniques, and rituals, their small bodies pushed beyond physical limits in the name of the gods. Many didn't survive. Those who did carried scars, physical and psychological, that shaped their entire lives. Domestic slaves fared no better. Records reveal children being bought and sold specifically for sexual use. Their value was measured by youth, beauty, and experience. What today we'd call crimes against humanity, in ancient Egypt were considered divine duties. But the most shocking ritual of all was the Feast of Drunkenness a festival dedicated to the goddess Hathor, inspired by the myth of the lioness goddess Sekhmet, who had to be subdued with beer stained red like blood. This annual celebration plunged Egyptian society into chaos. For 7 days, normal rules ceased to exist. Beer laced with hallucinogenic lotus extracts flowed endlessly. People claimed they were possessed by the gods, free to act without consequence. Slaves and masters lay together in public squares. Violence erupted hand in hand with sexual frenzy. Children weren't just exposed to the chaos, they were often pulled directly into it. Ancient texts describe scenes of biting, scratching, violent acts that left lasting injuries. Some revelers died from the excess. Others were trampled by mobs in narrow streets. Yet priests declared it all holy. Abuse was framed as worship. Violence became sacrifice. Foreign visitors were horrified. Mesopotamian envoys wrote that Egyptians masked barbarism beneath golden temples. Some refused to enter Egypt during festival seasons at all. Even after the chaos, the scars remained. Families shattered. Children conceived during these festivals were stigmatized as children of the gods, their origins whispered about in shame. Yet pharaohs defended the festival, claiming it was necessary to maintain cosmic order. By the time of Cleopatra, Greek and Roman rulers tried to suppress or reshape these traditions. Their rationalist worldview clashed with Egypt's mystical sexuality, but resistance from priests was fierce. To them, abandoning such rituals meant disaster, and so compromises emerged, public restraint paired with private excess. Behind palace walls, the darkest practices continued in secret, hidden from Roman eyes. When Rome finally conquered Egypt in 30 BCE, Augustus ordered these sexual traditions stamped out. Priests were executed, temples stripped, explicit artwork burned. But trauma on that scale couldn't simply vanish. Generations had been shaped by centuries of ritualized abuse. Even as Rome imposed its values, underground cults and secret gatherings tried to preserve what had been lost. And yet, it wasn't the Egyptians who erased this part of their history most thoroughly. It was the Victorians. The 19th century explorers who first uncovered the truth found themselves scandalized beyond belief. Giovanni Belzoni plastered over explicit tomb paintings. Auguste Mariette locked away artifacts in private collections. Flinders Petrie even admitted to burning items he considered obscene. The censorship was systematic. Museums categorized explicit artifacts as miscellaneous pottery. Translators skipped whole passages of papyri. Even today, institutions like the British Museum and the Louvre hold thousands of suppressed objects in locked rooms that the public will never see. This has left us with a whitewashed version of Egyptian history, one that celebrates the pyramids but ignores the darker rituals that sustained them, one that praises the pharaohs but hides the suffering of countless children and slaves who paid the price of cosmic order. For over 3,000 years, Egyptian society fused sexuality with religion in ways that blurred every boundary of morality. They created a system where intimacy became worship, where abuse was sanctified, and where power over the human body became a tool of cosmic control. And for the last 200 years, much of that truth has been hidden, not by the ancients but by modern shame. If this glimpse into the shadows of Egypt has left you unsettled, you're not alone. But history isn't meant to be comfortable. It's meant to reveal. And the secrets buried in these tombs remind us just how far humans can go when faith and power become entangled with desire. There are more hidden stories waiting to be uncovered. If you're ready to face them, click the next video on your screen and join me as we continue peeling back the layers of history they tried to erase.